Hey everybody, welcome to this Privateer Press first shot for the community integrated development of Khador Armored Core. I'm Will Hungerford, organized play developer, and with me is my partner in crime and just a generally beautiful man, Will Pagani. Lead CID developer?
Lead CID developer.
Lead CID developer.
Very exciting.
That is super
Very
exciting. And today we are here to talk to you about the CID cycle that just started for the Man of War. We're going to talk about all the new models that have just, you're getting your first look at, that you'll be testing over the CID cycle. The CID cycle is lasting for
A little more than 2 weeks.
a little more than 2 weeks. As well as some of the legacy models that received updates, which if you've looked over the notes already, which are online at cid.privateerpress.com, you'll see a lot of the heavy warjacks got a pretty...
They got tweaked.
It was a pretty massive overhaul of... The changes were small per model, but a lot of models were changed, is what I'm trying to say.
Like 10 or 12, I think.
We have both Twitch and Facebook chat up in front of us. We will be talking to people throughout this. When we do so, we'll call out their username. We'll try to repeat their question and we'll answer it. So if you're watching this on YouTube later on, what we're saying makes any sort of sense. If you see us looking down and squinting and you're like, are they okay? We're reading a chat.
It's actually the Martians attacking.
That's all. It's
Like, we're all dead.
That's weird and dark. Like you. And with us, in case you ever hear a random noise in the background, we have tech guru, social media manager, Primecast architect, and overall delightful human being, John, back in the tech stuff, making us appear on the internet.
Fantastic at blackjack, by the way.
And that you probably just heard him. So, let us get started, shall we? First, before we go into the individual models, let's talk about the Armored Core itself.
Sure.
Why don't you go ahead and go over the Armored Core and sort of the meat of what we're looking at?
So it involves all of the different Man of War stuff. Man of War, if you didn't know, actually started in the Iron Kingdoms, created by Matt Wilson as a way for Khador troops to create toast. So there were boilers
They do have
that
slots.
you bring around and have slots, and you put your toast into the slots.
Yeah.
And then you can make your toast when you're out in the field and it's cold in the harsh Khadoran winter. But to be a little more serious about it all, Man of War are giant steam suits of armor. They have pilots inside of them, so they are not warjacks. They do not have cortexes. They don't get focus, anything like that. I did see a lot of stuff leading up to this where people were like, Man of War are going to become light warjacks.
No.
They're not light warjacks. It's just not what they are.
We're not doing that.
So that is sort of what a Man of War is. We have a couple different types of Man of War. We have shock troopers, which are sort of a halberd and a shield. We have demolition corps, which have giant, like, basically sledgehammers.
Yeah.
And then we have the bombardiers, of course.
With chainsaw grenade launchers.
Chainsaw grenade launchers, which is an awesome combination.
Yeah.
We're also picking up a couple new things here.
Yeah.
We've got some tankers coming in. Tankers are large base Man of War with shields. We'll get some pictures of those up here in a little bit when we start talking about those.
Yep.
And we've got some assault chariots, and well, just two different types of chariots actually, which is sort of the fast, mobile response teams of the Man of War is what we're looking for out of those.
And I think this is really exciting because anybody who's played War Machine for any length of time, Man of War were one of the originals. They are iconic War Machine. When a lot of, I actually can't count the amount of people that have said they started playing the game because they saw Man of War. Like there's a couple things like, oh, I saw a trencher, I saw a Man of War, whatever it might have been that caught their eye, and they're just that classic look of War Machine. And so finally getting to do the entire theme force for Man of War and have an entire Man of War army on the table, which looks impressive when you have it all fully painted. This is a really exciting one. So looking forward to all the cool stuff. Let's start talking about some of the new stuff with the new Warcaster in this cycle, Sorsha 3.
Yes, Commandant Sorsha Kratikov.
Yeah. We'll be
As
pulling
I
her up on
butcher
the
that
screen
right
right there. Sorsha got herself some Man of War armor.
She did. So this is pretty different compared to what she's normally in. She's normally in very agile, very quick armor. We don't want that concept necessarily to go away. Like she still has Windrush. So we still want her to be mobile on the battlefield, being able to like aim and shoot her gun and move with Windrush, or being able to walk, shoot, Windrush, things like that. Are definitely something that we want to keep from her. We don't want her to be a very static caster.
No.
That just kind of hangs out in one position on the board.
And part of that is it backed up by she has a lot of things that are very classically Sorcerer. You've been mentioning Windrush, but she has the Storm's Embrace ability, which gives concealment to all friendly models. Actually, I'm sorry, gives it to friendly faction models.
Yes.
Gives inner command range.
And that's basically like a sort of an upgraded Fog of War. It's a little smaller than Fog of War normally was.
But it doesn't affect everybody. It only affects your models.
Correct.
And so you're going to need to keep her up there because her command range, I believe, is 9. Got it in front of me. It's 9. So you have to keep playing her forward. And also, one thing we're looking to do with her is that she should be one of the premier Man of War Armored Core casters, right?
Sure. Saying that though, that doesn't mean that like every single thing on her card should have to do with Man of War specifically, but that her entire everything working together works well inside the Man of War or the Armored Core theme force.
Yep, because there's a lot of other casters that are going to be great infantry casters that you'll see do very well in this theme force. Irisk 2 and the new Malikov 2 are going to come to mind immediately.
Butcher 1, I've been doing a lot of that in playtest. It's been excellent.
Butcher 1 double bombardiers with the command attachments is disgusting.
And the tanker that we just changed the name of.
Suppression
No, Strike Tanker.
Strike. But what we want to do in this CID with Sorcerer 3 is we want to make sure that she holds up alongside other casters like that. When you build your Armored Core list, we want to make sure that Sorcerer 3 is one of the ones you're reaching for as a caster. She's a strong consideration along the likes of the other ones that are immediately popping to mind. And so you'll see abilities that she brings to the table that give something unique, specifically her Field Marshal. Flank Man of War is disgusting.
Yes, and one of the things that I really like about it is, whereas some of the more expensive heavy warjacks don't necessarily get as much out of this, like a Juggernaut, for example, bumped up to 13 points in the CID, but it's already mat 7, and it's POW 19, so it doesn't really need this stuff to kill other heavies. But the cheaper ones, like the Berserkers, the Mad Dogs, the Ragers, those guys, they love this ability here because being able to get them for much fewer points. So I think the Mad Dog is down to 8 points now.
I believe so, yeah.
It picked up a mat, so it flanks up to mat 8. It's a POW 14. It gets an additional damage dice. Like, that's just now a solid warjack.
Yep. Or if you absolutely positively have to kill a Colossal, you just throw a Beast 09 in there.
Correct.
With the flank, and what is he not going to kill, right?
Pretty much. So what that does, in my mind, is it lets you play these lower quality warjacks that are cheaper in points and get more work out of them than you would, say, out of a Juggernaut with the same buffs, because you can have almost 2 to 1.
Yep, exactly.
So that's what I really like about that one. I really like her feat. We haven't touched on that one yet.
Yep.
It makes D3 plus 3 cloud effects. In general, I really like this feat here because you can sort of use a unit of shock troopers with Iron Flesh on them, as sort of the center of your cloud wall, and you can put clouds along either side of them and really block a ton of line of sight to the rest of your army behind it. So you can use that to, say, deliver Demolition Core. You can deliver Bombardiers with that. You can use some of your squishier Man of War, basically, your Armor 16 guys that don't have shield wall behind that to really get them into the fight.
Yep.
So.
And so the main things we're testing, like I mentioned, we want to make sure that she feels like a good, solid choice when you're building your Armor Core list, and that what she provides to the Jacks with the Flank Man of War, if you spam, say, Ragers, and use the flank and then the mass amount of shield guards. Is that a problem? See if you find any exploits, see if you find any abuses. Is there a build that you've come up with a problem that your opponent just doesn't have any answers for in the vast majority of their theme forces, their armies that they're playing? Let us know.
Ojutai asks in chat, wait, so all Jacks have flank Man of War?
Yep.
With Sorcerer 3, yes, that is true. That is not a change to the theme force or anything for those of you that may or may not be tuning in a little late.
Yep, that is her Field Marshal ability, so it's an incredibly strong and defining ability on her card. Speaking of incredibly strong and defining, or in this case maybe even redefining, why don't we talk about the Bombardier Officer for a second?
Yes, that sounds lovely.
So the Bombardier Officer, Bombardiers, I've always loved the concept. Like, the Man of War are cool looking, but how about we give him a chainsaw that shoots grenades? So how about we give him an officer that lets them cut down woods that they walk through with the new clear cut ability that basically gives them Pathfinder as long as they advance.
Super happy with this ability, and the name, like, oh my god, it's so thematic. And I think it's great for the unit.
It's always good, right? Let's give them quick work so they can saw a guy in half and then shoot a grenade. And then how about we also give them a mini feat that increases that volume of firepower even more?
So this unit to me is sort of the big winner of this CID, and we're gonna have a bunch of people talk about the winners of the CID on the forums and on Facebook and stuff. This UA to me is like perfect. It gives the unit something to do that other units in the faction or the theme force can't do, which is move quickly through rough terrain.
Yep.
It gives a great range support. And it creates a truly combined arms unit where you can melee and ranged in the same activation. If they don't want to commit into you, like if they don't want to run up to you so that you can get that melee and ranged, you can then aim at range 12 now, use your mini feed, and just unload an incredible amount of POW 14 shots.
And yeah, like you said, we want you to test this actually pretty heavily and actually run double bombardier builds. But the Butcher 1 double bombardier double command attachment build is very strong. When you
Beautiful.
both units, if you set it up, they both mini feet on your Butcher's feet, and you just unleash hell on your opponent, and it can be like devastating. They can have nothing left. So test this in the most extreme cases you possibly can. Let us know what you think. And yes, somebody in chat brought up Stephen Brooks in the Facebook chat says clear cut works on pawns. Yes, you can chainsaw your way through water.
So like, have you ever seen one of those snowmobiles? Like in those really bad action movies where they like go off a cliff and then the little thing's going and they land on a pond and it just keeps going?
Yeah.
They actually stand on their little rifles and then just ride it through the pond as
Like
the chainsaw's going. Yeah, it propels them.
I'm down. I mean, no, that makes tons of physical sense. Yeah.
Absolutely how it works.
Science and math.
Perfect.
Do we want to talk about, I'll let you even say the name, Sergeant Dragos.
Sergeant Dragon, son of Dragon?
Sergeant Dragos Dragodovich.
I don't know if we can say that on live stream.
Dragodovich. This is the demo core command attachment.
Correct.
And it's a character. So we just saw this with Warmongers in the Legion CID, where they had
I'm not going to.
Gorag Rotnai.
There you go. You got it there.
So many models. I love you, John. Thank you. We're just going to call him.
He's got it.
You got it. You nailed it way better than we could.
Oh, yes.
So like Gorag Rotnai on the Warmongers, we have another command attachment that's a character that adds a absurd amount of power to that unit.
So he gives them vengeance, which I think is something they've always wanted. And this is granted vengeance, much like Gorag Rotnai had, which a lot of people are not a huge fan of because if he dies, they lose it.
Correct.
But we really like that sort of counterplay. And whereas a lot of units in the past that had it had like small base, not single wound, but like 5 wound guys that are not particularly durable. This guy's pretty durable. He's got 8 wounds. He's armor 16. You got clouds in the faction. You can hide him behind Man of War, shock troopers, right? Like there are ways to keep this guy alive, and that vengeance, good God, that vengeance.
Yeah. You get team effort, so that demo core, because they didn't hit hard or as accurate as they needed to.
I mean, they're only at 7 and POW 14.
They're only, yeah, that's it. So now just here's gang, because that's the thing.
Because we needed Mat 9 POW 16 guys.
Yeah.
Really, what the demo core kind of do for me is just like, you get a 5-man unit of them, you put this guy on there, you lose 2 or 3 to shooting, on the turn you go in, you get vengeance, you get up there, you charge, and then you kill a heavy and maybe a heavy and a half.
Yeah.
Like these guys just do incredible damage.
What I like to do, we're going to talk about this a little bit on the next model, which we're not at yet, but that's the new Commandant Atanis, who's like the big commander with the standard bearer. He can give a unit Retaliatory Strike. So giving these guys with their command attachment Retaliatory Strike and Vengeance means, and you just get them stuck in there. They got defensive line, so they can't be knocked down. They've got slightly higher def in melee. If you hit them, they probably survive depending on what you're hitting with. Then they get to swing back. Then you damage them. Then they get to Vengeance next turn. And then they get to attack on their activation. Like, it just takes this unit, and it's just force multiplier after force multiplier to where they just begin wrecking, like you said, heavy, if not more, when they get in there and start doing their thing. Let's see if we have any questions in the chat real fast.
We do have one from Almighty Foon here, which is why no double swing on the demo core? So double swing or backswing was actually what it was called. It was a Mark II star attack for the demo core that let them make 2 attacks.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that I'm going to guess that changed is because of this command attachment, which has been in the works for a long time.
Yeah.
Backswing and Vengeance and Retaliatory Strike would be up to 4 attacks in a turn, which just seems like way too much to me. So I can understand why that went away.
Benjamin Skillman says, aren't they Power Strength 16? Yeah, you said 14. Not
14 up to 16? Oh,
they
sorry, I was thinking
were
shock troops.
You were thinking shock troopers. They're 16.
16 up to 18, Fury to 21, Butcher feet.
Enjoy your life.
2 of them will kill a heavy.
Correct.
Easy peasy. Easy peasy.
Somebody asked, Ojai asked, if an unstable jack explodes, does the explosion benefit from flank? No, because the explosion's on a melee attack.
Yeah, flank requires melee attacks.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're making me look at the sheet. I had to read it.
So anyway, Sergeant Dragos John, can you say the name, please?
Dragos Dragodovich.
Thank you. What we're looking to test here is these force multipliers we're talking about too much on the demo core unit. Again, is it pushing them too far, or maybe is it not enough? Are you having trouble actually even getting your demo core in there? Do you think maybe the defensive tech he has right now needs to change in some way? Let us know your thoughts and your play experiences.
Speaking of defensive tech changing, Tenzillo the Butcher asks in Twitch chat, why defensive line over Wall of Steel? Seems more in line with Manowar. Well, one, we kind of wanted to differentiate them a little bit from, God, I'm blanking on the name.
Shock
Troopers. Sorry, I wanted to say Assault Troopers, which is the Chariot, not the guy. Anyways, yeah, so we wanted to differentiate them a little bit there by giving them defense instead of armor. We also don't really want these guys to be super duper resilient against shooting. So we want them to take losses on the approach. We want them to trigger that vengeance, that kind of stuff. We want you to have to play around these sort of not necessarily low, but lower defensive stats than some of the other models in the Theme Force.
Yep. So let's move on to Commandant Atanas Arkanovich. I can say that one. And Standard. So like the Scorn Tyrant Commander in Standard, this is the...
That's the guy's name now is Standard.
Yeah, it's Standard.
It's a surname.
This is like the TICOM, right? This is the big badass battle plan spitting army sort of tactician, and then his bro holding a banner. These are probably three of the most targeted and powerful battle plans we've seen. First, they all affect Manowar, like only Manowar. And three, I said first and then three. I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna own it. First, and then third, they're awesome. Like all three of them are awesome.
Is number 2 question mark?
Number 2 doesn't exist.
Okay.
Hashtag there is no number 2. So Retaliatory Strike is one of them, which we talked about a little bit earlier in the demo core. Like with your Shock Troopers and your demo core, these models that can definitely take a hit, and then being able to swing back on Shock Troopers, you know, they're sitting there at arm 1,000,000, might as well be. And then they get swing back with 14s. And on the demo core, with all the things we talk about stacking, you can turn that unit into an offensive powerhouse that your opponent gets punished for even trying to take off the table in melee. You've got Tough with the defensive line again on the demo core. Now you've got Tough no knockdown troops, which is going to be insane. I do believe the last one, we left it at Relentless Charge. So while you've got the Bombardiers able to clear cut, which that's only on an advance, now being able to give any man of war unit you want the ability to gain Pathfinder on a charge, obviously, given the nature of this army, is going to be incredibly important.
Very, very good.
And this guy's no slouch in melee either, just like the TICOM and Scorm. He's rocking, what, a Palpable Strength 15, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep,
Yeah,
and
15
Mat 8.
On his greatsword, and Mat 8, like, he'll kill stuff in melee if he has to. Finally...
And then also Veteran Leader is very important.
I was going
here,
to say,
right?
that's the final thing to talk about. He has Vet Leader.
So, Shock Troopers with Assault, they love this Veteran Leader. Bombardiers aiming love this Veteran Leader. Not aiming, they love it even more. Like Rat 6 is a very solid rat. And then of course, Mat 7 for almost this entire set of Manowar here, they're going to go up to Mat 8. Yeah. Getting into some of the tankers and the chariots, they also love this vet leader. So
Would you go so far as to say that Arkanovich is an auto-include in an armored core list? I'm going to make a bold statement and say yes.
Probably.
He just does so much. You're going to bring Man of War units. You know what? I guess if you were bringing a armored core jack spam list, which
you could do with Sorsha.
You could do, but you're still going to want the unit to get the flanks, right? You're probably going to want 2 units anyway. So between vet leader and units to trigger flank, I guess you could do all solos. But then
yeah, so I did a lot with Dracoons when I did that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Dracoons in the battle engines.
But you're still not holding zones at that point. I think the guy's an auto-include in armored core. Let us know what you think.
Yep. So next up, we got the tankers, of which there are 2 variety.
The sweetest thing in this entire CID, visually.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a quick little side story before we talk about these, super fast. We're having a development meeting. It's you, me, Souls,
Jeff was there.
Jess, yeah, Jeff,
and Jack.
Yep. We're sitting there, and one of the engineers comes from downstairs and has one of the tanker models, like an early shot of it. He just sets it down on the table in front of us. The meeting ended. Like we all reverted to being 5 years old, we immediately grabbed it and just started playing with it and looking at how awesome it was. And I think...
And then we reworked the entirety of the strike tanker.
And then we reworked the entire thing. But like, I think, 3 of us in that room were like...
No, we're done. We're starting Manowar.
I gotta start a Manowar army now. Yeah. Like, it just looks so awesome. The model's so sweet. So let's talk about them.
And hopefully we can show some of those off soon. because I don't think this art right here does him justice.
I can think of so many awesome paint jobs for a Man of War army. Bright yellow, with black, with like a bumblebee black.
But why?
Because I hate myself.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to paint yellow.
Yellow's not hard to paint, by the way. Just need patience.
I'm not in on it.
Practice and perseverance. Get your paint on. 10 a.m. Pacific every Thursday with Dallas.
There are no plugs here.
There are no plugs. There are only plugs here.
There are only plugs. Sure. So we've got two different types of tankers here. Let's go with the suppression tanker first.
Yeah.
I love this guy, but the strike tanker is actually my favorite. So the tankers, they're pretty slow. They're speed 4.
Yep.
Like nobody's expecting these guys to blaze across the field. Mat 7 rat 6, Def 9 arm 17.
But 2 shields.
They got 2 shields, so they're really arm 21.
And 10 damage boxes.
10 damage boxes. They got bulldoze, so they can push into scenario zones, which is, we see a lot of people already coming out on Facebook and talking about how Man of War are very slow, so they have a very hard time getting into scenario zones because they can get locked out of them pretty easily. Between these guys and the assault chariots. So like this guy can just run, bulldoze a hole, you can stick your shock troopers in there.
Yeah. And he's got dual attack. So
Yeah.
they can actually charge up, bash, and then go to town with their big guns all over the hole they just made.
Jesus. So he has 2 volley guns, which are range 10, rate of fire D3 each, so 2D3, POW 12, and they have covering fire. So this is covering fire in Man of War. So if you're tired of your poor shock troopers getting charged by things like Bane Thralls, Exemplar, that kind of stuff, let's throw down some POW 12 covering fire in front of your unit now. Now they really have to commit something heavy to killing them. And then he's also got Concentrated Blast, which is from the Scorn Desert Hydra.
It's the windshield wiper.
Yeah.
So once you get in there and you like push that you make that hole for you to go hold the zone, right? And then you get jammed back out. So say your demo core get jammed by a unit of something light that is in the way. This thing just walks up and sends a 10-inch blast across the line. It's rocking
POW 16.
POW 16. So you gotta line it up right. You can probably get it to where you're like you'll probably hit some of your own guys and maybe hurt them a little bit, but with 8 damage boxes, you're not gonna kill a ton of Man of War. But I call it the windshield wiper because every time I use it, I just like okay, get rid of these guys.
Yep.
Right, and then clear the rest of my unit up to keep punching through. And I think the image you just created of making a hole and punching your way through it and like blasting your way in is really how Man of War play. You got to pick and choose your scenario zones, how you're gonna strike them. And things like bulldoze and these guys that can clear out mass infantry to really bust your way through there is core to how they're going to win on scenario.
Definitely. What? I mean, I feel like Man of War are not going to win very many games on scenario.
It's possible to.
Sure, but I think it'll mostly end up being an attrition win, and you just push them out of the zone and get there. Because these Man of War are very slow, right? Like they're speed 4, they get the +2 from Desperate Pace from the Kovnik, but these guys aren't blazing across the field particularly quick.
Yep.
Until you get to the chariots, and then those guys are pedal to the metal. But yeah, so once again, this guy with the Butcher to me has been incredible. He gets 2d3 shots at POW 12, so he can kill a whole bunch of stuff. Of course, you get the veteran leader from Matana, so he goes up to rat 7. If he can aim, he goes to rat 9 with all that.
Man, the Butcher does a lot for Man of War.
I agree. Butcher 1 is probably my favorite caster here, which is probably going to skew a lot of the CID feedback because we're talking about it so much. So play other stuff too.
Yeah, play Sorcerer 3.
Play Sorcerer 3. She is excellent here.
Do we have both tanker concept arts?
This is the only art we got here. This is actually both of them on one piece.
Oh, is it? Neat.
Yep. So the right-hand side is the strike tanker gun. The left-hand side is like the little, I don't even know what those things are called, but they got a lot of bullets in them, and you pull a trigger and stuff flies out.
Looks like the model we've
holes.
seen downstairs. God, y'all, the model is super dope, by the way.
That's so cool. Yeah, so the strike tanker is sort of the exact opposite of the suppression tanker. The suppression tanker is there to clear out infantry, put down suppressing fire, combine its attacks into one big spray, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
This guy is there to wreck armor. So he's a POW 8 armor piercing shot at range 12. He has Grievous Wounds and Siege Weapon. So I have seen these guys kill battle engines in one shot on Sorcerer 2's feat turn.
Yeah.
So, like, you just roll up. Yeah, I'll roll the 18, take 30.
Or if somebody's trying to bring any number of huge bases, like say they're trying to brick up with anything they can heal, especially gargantuans. Oh wait, no, Grievous doesn't work on them anymore.
Correct.
Never mind.
It does work on battle engines.
I remember, sorry,
Does it work
Dev
on
Brain.
engines?
I remember play testing with it when
it
it
does.
did work and it being really strong.
Yes.
So that doesn't exist anymore. They can still heal, but this thing does, like you said, it just murders things. Again, Butcher 1's feet.
Amazing on this guy.
Ooh.
Butcher 1's feet, Sorcerer 2's feet.
Ooh.
Fire for effect is incredible on these guys. Yeah, This guy is my boy.
Can we talk about casters real fast before we go into the Chariot?
Sure.
We've been talking a lot about Butcher 1 and the source and stuff. You know who's really, really amazing? Kozlov.
Yes.
Kozlov in an Armored Core list, if you haven't played Kozlov since you got him in your battle box, put Kozlov in. First off, that feat +2 speed and unyielding with a Man of War more infantry-based list is
Super
ridiculous. Good. He's got Fury. He's got Tax Supremacy. When you actually look at his spell list and all the things he brings, he's a legit Man of War caster. So if you're reaching for your Butchers and your Isk and your Sorcerer 3, try and get a game in with Kozlov. I think you'll be really surprised with how fast your Man of War is suddenly at the mid-line threatening your entire opponent's army.
Bubba54 in Twitch chat says, first hilarious list he's come up with, Vlad 1, 4 tankers, 4 battle engines, 4 berserkers. We'll call it the 4x4, but there's only 3.
I mean, sure, I like it. Plus Vlad. Oh, Vlad 1. Man, can we talk about how every caster in Khador is just legit?
They're very good, yes.
So shall we move on to the Chariots?
The Chariot?
I'm so excited about them. I would like to talk about the Siege Chariots. So first off, these Chariots. Conceptually, when you look at them, first thing you might look at and be like, hey man, compared to a gun carriage, these things don't seem like they're as durable. You are correct.
They're not.
They're chariots, right? They're open top chariots being dragged by horses. They're not these giant, basically mobile tank being pulled by huge armored horses. So they should be less durable than the gun carriage. However, what they are bringing is to the Man of War very fast, mobile, easy to, we left reposition on them, yeah?
Yep.
Yes, we left reposition on them. That's very core.
Yep.
To be able to quickly move around the battlefield, insanely powerful guns. And they come in 2 flavors. There's the Assault Chariot, which we'll talk about in a second, and then there's my favorite, the Siege Chariot. Its flavor is annihilation. So if you could taste the void of death, that is the Siege Chariot. Let's talk about the most ridiculous gun we've ever made outside of the Commodore.
Sure. Well,
range 8.
Not great on the range.
Pow,
but, thank God.
20.
Oh, Jesus.
Smite.
Yep. So,
the Victor's gun would be stronger, but he's got inaccurate.
Sure.
This doesn't. Also, they've got line breaker, right? So they just impact attack their way in the line, and then with dual attack, they get to shoot something point blank. Can you just imagine the bad day some people are going to have? As this thing just smashes through all their infantry, then gets point blank with whatever they want to send flying through the lines, and just point blank just. I love this gun. Please make sure it's not broken.
Please.
Please.
There's been a lot of hilarity come out of this gun. The Smite has been incredible. I remember when we were sitting in the dev meeting making these guys, like, but what if it was like the biggest slug gun of all time?
I'm the one who suggested it. I was like, what if we make a super slug gun? Let's literally just double the range and make it POW 20. And the room went quiet, and everyone was like, go on.
Yes. And then somebody was like, and add Smite.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
So
this is one that I'm pretty excited about. And I've played a lot of the double Assault Chariot lists, once again, Butcher 1. So I've been playing things like double Bombardiers, double Assault Chariots, double Strike Tankers, and you get a ton of ranged fire out of it. And then, of course, the Assault Chariot's gun is range 10, D3+1, POW 12, AoE 3, high explosive. So this guy kind of just rolls up and with Butcher 1's feet just annihilates warcasters and stuff. Like it's crazy.
Stephen Brooks in the Facebook chat says, the Man of War Bombardier officer has tactical tips listed for ranking fire and heavy bombardment. What are those? A mistake.
Correct. Sometimes in the database, tactical tips will get added to models that don't have those rules. And also, a lot of the times, some of those rules don't even exist. Like heavy bombardment, what even is that? That might have been the name of the mini feat that gave dual attack. Originally.
I think it was the one that let you dual attack and then reposition.
Or not dual attack. Dual shot, the one that you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was the one that let you bomb them and then back up.
They used to have reposition, which was.
Yeah, they had basically a version of Bushwhack that let him shoot twice, and guess what? No. That didn't make it because it was busted.
No.
Let's see. Tankers and chariots. So Andrew Thomas in chat says these tankers and the chariots are they dual kits or are they separate kits? You know, man, I honestly don't know.
No idea.
As devs, sometimes we don't know all the production specifics, and I couldn't give you an honest answer that I would be confident in. The Assault Chariot, you know what one of my favorite casters is with it? Vlad 1.
Sure.
Sign's Importance is ridiculous, especially on this many shots.
It's just a very good spell.
Yeah.
Very good spell.
Up to 4 3-inch AoEs that all have high explosive, and you got Sign's Importance. Just obliterate the world.
Up to 8, sir. You get 2 of these things.
Oh yeah, sure. If you take 2 of them. So that's the last of the new models coming out in this cycle.
Yep.
But
I think we're just going to kind of run through these old ones.
Yeah.
I've got all the changes marked down here, so we don't have to play guessing game because we don't get color printouts. We only get black and white ones.
Let's talk about what we're doing right now. So every CID cycle, we add some selection of legacy models, pretty much anything that is related to the theme force we're testing, which in this case you're going to see all the Man-O-War, and then a couple other things we decided we wanted to tweak within the faction. In Khador, we took a long look at Malakov II, who we felt was slightly underperforming and needed just a tiny tweak to get him where we want to be, because he could be an amazing infantry caster. We think the change we've made, especially with Man-O-War, makes him that. And then our main focus of Legacy was a review of all the Khador heavy warjacks.
Not all, but a good chunk.
Damn near all. Basically all.
Sure.
Almost all.
It's a good chunk.
We didn't look at the Destroyer.
No, that guy's sweet.
Yeah, that guy's sweet. So let's go through it, shall we?
Yeah. So first up on our list, which is very out of order, is the Man-O-War Dracoon.
Yep.
There were no changes to the Man-O-War Dracoon, but he is in the CID, so if you have something that you love about the Dracoon and you want to see it better, ship it. If you have something you hate about the Dracoon playing against it and you think it's broken, report on that as well.
The Berserker.
Berserker. So the whole chassis picked up Mat 6. So Berserker, Mad Dog, and Rager.
Yep.
And then most of them dropped a couple points, one or two. One of the first things that happened when I worked here was the Mad Dog nerf and the Berserker changes and all that kind of stuff. And we will admit that we probably went a little too far on that stuff. So we were trying to remedy that a little bit and get these guys back on the table. So the mat change, the point change, hopefully that's enough. If it's not, we can keep tweaking.
Yeah.
Keep tweaking.
Really interested to hear from Christopher Davies in the CID. Chris, I'm always watching you.
Sure. And the Swedes, they were the original pioneers of that list.
I know. But Chris is the one that brought it to my attention.
Mr. Rapp.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got my eye on you.
Please. So something that I think is important to say here is the Berserker chassis is going to keep the unstable rule. That rule's not going to go away. It may change a little bit, but it's definitely not going to disappear.
Yeah.
So there will be a lot of people that are like, I don't like unstable. But it's core concept to the Berserker. So it's very important that the unstable rule or something very, very similar to what it is now stays on that model.
Yep.
And that applies to the entire chassis.
Let's go over the Decimator next. Very simply, the Decimator went down a point.
Boop.
When looking at the changes we made to the heavies as a whole, we realized he was just slightly overcosted. We like what he does. We like how he performs and what he's doing on the battlefield. He just needed to be a little bit cheaper.
This is already one of my favorite heavies. So
this is going to be a big one for a lot of people, but I don't think you should really be that surprised. The Juggernaut went up a point.
Correct.
The Juggernaut, you might be surprised he only went up a point, but the fact that he went up any points should not be a surprise.
Sure.
The Juggernaut was simply outperforming every other heavy in that weight class at the same point value.
Yeah, I got wrecked by one last year.
Yeah.
Like just wrecked. Dude, so good.
But he's not a 14 point. When you start looking at 14 points, there's usually a little bit more utility. Maybe a gun is on it. Maybe there's something more. I mean, he's still a very basic Jack in what he does. He just
does it very well.
Really
He's
good at it.
Very durable. He has Mat 7. He's pound 19. Like he brings the whole package with none of the frills, and that's probably how he got pointed costed so cheap before, is that he has no frills.
Yeah.
But just the sheer stats of this guy are crazy.
Yeah.
So.
You want to go over the Marauder?
The Marauder also just went up a point. Very similar to the Juggernaut here. Just a very solid, cheap Jack. It was just too cheap. We definitely still have our eye on the Marauder. There could still be more changes coming to him. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say there. Just sort of, this guy is very efficient, and we want to keep that efficiency in check.
The Spriggan. We
Yes.
dropped him down to 17 points from what, 19?
I believe 19,
We
yes.
dropped him 2 points. Again, we just took a look at what he was doing compared to the other heavies and how often people were taking him, the kind of list they were taking him, what utility he was bringing in, how much that utility exists in other places in the faction now, and realized that 19 points was far too much of a premium to pay for the actual hitting power and utility he was bringing to the game.
Another guy that we're going to keep our eye on, this guy. He's very pricey, but he does bring a lot of unique things to the faction, so we do want to keep that in mind. Try this guy out. Let us know how you feel. I've been playing him with the Bombardiers to ignore stealth, for example. So.
Beast 09, we dropped 3 points. We do what we want. Man of War Bombardiers,
much.
we just increased their range to 12,
Yep.
and that was kind of with all the changes coming to Man of War. We wanted to make sure that with all these cool abilities they were getting, they were actually able to land these grenades into their opponent ranks. And 10 turned out to be just a little too short. Most of our play tests, we realized bumping up by 2 made them feel just right.
Demo Corps dropped a point
Yep.
on their low end and high end, so they're down to 915. Yeah, we'll see how these guys shake out here.
Man of War Shock Troopers didn't change because they're baller. Man of War
Kovic
Kovic
Didn't change because he's a baller.
because they're baller. Well, you want to talk about Conquest and Victor real fast?
Yeah, let's talk about them at the same time.
Okay.
They both dropped 2 points. So Conquest down to 35, Victor's down to 36. These guys have not seen a lot of table time. And whereas we certainly never want anything to become ubiquitous, we would like to see them on the table. And we're pretty happy with their rules in general, so we really just want to kind of tweak and hone in on that point cost. So please play with these guys, give some feedback, let us know how that stuff goes.
In the chat, Minizot says, "Is Hungerford wearing red face paint? I just have bad skin, and sometimes it acts up. So I should have put. Thanks though. I was just made wrong. See, I'm from the swamp, and when I come up here in this northern area where it's drier, sometimes my body just molts. Today's a molten day.
Yeah, Mad Dog, we kind of talked about this a little bit. Dropped a point, dropped back down to 8 points, went up to Mat 6. Something that we are watching very closely, right? Like we want these jacks to be played. We don't want them to rule the whole game again like they did way, way back a year and a half ago. So play test them, try them out, play them with Sorsha, play them with Karchev again, figure out what we need here, give us that kind of stuff.
So Rager and Shock Trooper, we can kind of go over quickly. Rager, like we talked about the Berserker earlier.
Same thing.
Yep.
And also picked up a Rat.
Yeah, picked up a Rat.
So they were Rat 3, went to Rat 4. It's still not the most accurate gun, obviously, but maybe that little bump will help out.
Reeve110 says, so can we expect a point drop on other Colossals if it makes sense? Like,
It certainly depends on the Colossal, right?
Yeah. Some of them possibly, some of them absolutely not. Like some of them are appropriately costed. But it really depends. Fred Kepper says, I'm a handsome swamp man. I love you, Fred.
Cheers.
I just love you. But let's talk about the Malakoff change.
Yes. So first off, Fighting Dirty didn't have a duration listed.
Whoops.
So that's weird. So it has a duration now. That's the change on Fighting Dirty. It is this turn.
Yeah.
So
rules
free
is
strike
written.
knockdown. Yeah.
You could just
you could just start stacking it on people and it lasts forever.
and it would last forever
Until
until
you
they made the
until you
swing.
attack, yeah.
Yeah.
But Poison Pill is the really big change here, and it's actually a really small change. We just removed the battle group restriction to it. So now it works on everything. This works on the battle engines. So you can get the battle engines. They can wander around, I believe, 7 inches. Still doesn't work on Gargantuans or Colossals.
Nope.
I don't know how it would work on a Gargantuan.
And it works on, he's got Veil of Mists, right? There's some really sweet combos. More importantly, the feat just gives parry and steady. And then it has that sort of enliven effect. So now you can Veil of Mists over a unit. You can give them the backstab ability with the battle plan. You can feat so they have parry, so they can walk through the models through the Veil of Mists, not take the free strikes because of the feat, get behind them and use the backstab. Like, this is just making it not affect only jacks opened up this cool suite of abilities.
Yeah, and I really like this guy in Man of War for a bunch of different reasons. Backstab is great.
Yep.
I really like stealth Demo Corps. We talked about these guys, like, if they get there, good God. So stealth Demo Corps between Sneak and Veil of Mists, great. You get the Fighting Dirty interaction, you get the feat, which means if they put like 2 guys in each Man of War or something, and the first one doesn't kill them, they can wander out of melee. You can even wander around with Retaliatory Strike from Atanis. So like that's a really cool interaction that you can get. So there's a lot going on with this guy, and this change really opened him up as a caster in my mind, specifically for Man of War. So I would definitely give him a try. Try out this stuff. Tell us where you think he's failing. Tell us where you think he's doing great.
Yep.
And we'll try and get there.
Zach Wilson asks in Facebook chat, no changes to Drago, and his second part is who do I buy a beer at the Berliner for new Man of Wars? No changes to Drago. We are pretty happy with what he's doing overall. He was part of the review. And as for who do you buy a beer for new Man of Wars, I would say get one for myself, for Pagani, and for John. The
I
three people in
don't
this
drink
room.
alcohol. I don't.
Since when?
Now? I live alcohol? How about that? I don't
So,
just drink. Anyways.
we have covered.
topic.
We've covered everything.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of time left before we close down this first shot. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch chat for a second. We're going to see if anybody has any questions that we can or want to answer, and then we'll close things out. Reminder, everyone, go to cid.privateerpress.com. That's where you can go join in on the CID cycle, starting now, lasting about 2.5 weeks. Play your games, give us your feedback. All the devs are on there. Our lead CID developer, Mr. Pagani, is on there the most. That's kind of your job.
Yep.
And but all of us read your battle reports. We read the survey results, and the dev team meets on it every week. So get in there, help us, give us some feedback, help us shape the Man of War into the truly terrifying force they're supposed to be.
I'm saying Chili Winners here in Twitch chat. It says, I'm telling the truth, he's never seen me drink.
Aaron says, Beast 09 stays the same cost. No, Beast 09 went down 3 points.
Correct.
Also,
Down to 18.
Just since there were a number of questions regarding folks that aren't in the CID, like Karchev, so on and so forth.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just a quick overview of the things that are in KBR not included in the CID. Poor K.
A lot of things get left out of CIDs because we don't feel they're relevant to what we are doing currently. And then also some of them we're just happy with.
Yeah.
Because the community perceives that there's an issue with something does not necessarily mean that there is an issue with that thing. And we're starting to see stuff like that come out of LVO. Zakar had a great run. A lot of people do not like Zakar in the Scorn community. That guy, I think between, I want to say it was Jeff, Everett, and, I don't remember the name of the second gentleman playing Zakar, but I want to say they only dropped one game between the two of them out of like 23. Yeah. So obviously there's something there. Somebody could explore that a little bit more and maybe find more stuff. So just because it's not in CID and you want it to be in CID doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, and doesn't mean it won't show up later as well. Things can certainly also be added later.
And that's an important note. We do try and be careful when you're testing a CID. Please keep it to the stuff that's in the CID cycle, and we have a list of those items. We have a limited amount of time to test, and if people get too far off topic on other things in the faction they want to try and force in, it just creates noise, and we're trying to really focus on the things that we presented are new or are changing. So we just stay on target.
So Mecha Jeff says, can you repeat the question? We cannot hear John very well in the Twitch stream. The question was, of the things that were left off of the CID docket, why were they left off, essentially? We had a lot of questions. Why is this not in there? That was the answer. We're going Jeopardy style.
Yep.
We'll give you the answer first, then the question.
Megamole99 says, epic Colossal Karchev win. Well,
I mean, we could definitely make something for Extreme Colossal Wrestling.
I'll make one.
The tiny little head.
Tiny little head.
Giant
Sorry, the
conquest
next
body.
Karchev, which I think is coming out in 2029. He comes out of that suit and he has a little, it's called a mannequin. It's like a little tiny suit that he walks around with, because he's not always walking around in the giant warjack suit. It's in the fluff. Like, he has this sort of like doll. Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. When he's not in the suit, when he's just living everyday life, he has this little tinier version that's called a mannequin that he puts his body into, and then they put him in the warjack that's coal powered when he's not doing that. So the epic version of him is just going to be a little bitty Karchev about that big. He doesn't have any attacks or damage. He's got the immobile rule. He's terrible. Sorry.
That is his title, after all. We do have a question from Eric Bruvold. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Eric. Hope you guys look at the Man of War Kovnik. Too many games he hands out Desperate Pace and then waddles up for 2 turns to relevancy. I think that's kind of what that guy does, right? Like, that guy is not supposed to be someone that's running in the front lines and leading the charge. He's there to lead his troops. He's there to be a commander. So the fact that he Desperate Paces for 2 or 3 turns and then really gets up there after that to commit to the battle, I think is fine. I think that's almost exactly where we want that guy.
Okay. Someone says, how much should we be referencing current Steamroller while doing CID? You should use Steamroller as much as you want. After this CID ends, there's going to be a rather unique Steamroller CID. It's going to be shorter than you're used to, and that's because Steamroller's got some changes coming, but not nearly the huge changes we saw last time. So use the current Steamroller, test everything in it. You don't have to be honest. If you want to test just a normal 1v1 caster kill game, you're more than welcome to. Steamroller feedback definitely helps us, and especially with the Man of War, who kind of have this very interesting scenario game.
Absolutely, absolutely. Definitely play with scenarios against Man of War and with Man of War. Let us know if you feel like you're getting completely closed out of them too quickly. Let us know if you feel that the Man of War are just simply too hard to kill. I do want to say something real quick, just to pause for a moment. We are getting a lot of questions in the chats about why were other models left out of other CIDs. We're not going to be answering those questions. One, going back that far, it hasn't been on our mind, so we may not necessarily remember why something was left out. And two, we can answer those questions for days, and it's going to be the same answer. We're either happy with where it is, we didn't feel like it fit, or we weren't particularly concerned at the moment with it.
Seth Conrad says, with the point cost and option of the PAL 20 gun, how do you feel this will affect the usage of the Colossal?
I think they feel very different.
Yeah, I was going to say they do very different things. So I don't think that those two things are competing. One is very mobile, crashes through infantry with line breaker, and then gets the one shot off, while a Colossal's the jack that has access to focus and all the other cool things that can do.
Correct. Whereas
it's also way more survivable.
One POW 20 with Smite is very strong, of course. Like, it does a ton of damage, but nothing is going to beat a POW 23 Conquest in melee, right? Yep. So there's a very large differentiation there. So even if you take two of these battle engines, because I think there's 16 points, you go to 32. Conquest was 35. Yeah. 34 maybe. It's going to be a very different damage output here.
Almaty Foon says, I thought Crucible Guard was next CID and Steamroller 2018 was after that. Nope, Steamroller 2018 is the next one. It's a shorter cycle, and then Crucible Guard.
So, yeah, we're going to kind of sneak Steamroller in the middle between the two. Don't expect it to be as long as a normal CID cycle, and it's also not going to take up a slot. So it's going to be pretty pedal to the metal for the next 2 months.
And you'll get to see the champions changes.
Woo!
They big.
From
they just cool.
Trotskydym. In Twitch chat, one thing I wanted to say that's not directly on topic, back in Mark II, they used to run a load of Mercs under Sorsha. Since the advent of those themes, those models don't work in lists for Khador. Is there any possibility of a Merc or Universal theme? We are definitely staying away from Universal themes, as we feel like that defeats the majority of the purpose of themes. A Merc theme in Khador, I mean, anything's possible, right? We certainly have Disciples of Agony in Scorn. Something like that could happen if it made sense functionally, and there was a compelling gameplay reason for it. So, maybe, I guess is the answer.
Over on Facebook, real fast, Kelby Gittings said, have you guys thought about making the mechanic officer a solo? No, we're interested in keeping it as part of the unit for now. Especially when something like that is kind of already out. We're really trepidatious about changing its model type. Now, that doesn't mean like in CID we wouldn't consider such a thing, but that takes a really strong argument to do.
And just to kind of give an explanation of why things like that are usually far outside the scope of CID, you can't just change a model type because like the packaging of the model says what it is. And so we'd have to go through and reprint all of the packaging of the model. Right? We'd have to change our website. We'd have to change everything. We'd have to get all the distributors to change their stuff. So, like, especially for legacy models that are unreleased at the moment, there's pretty much no room for anything like that to happen. Tinzilla the Butcher asks, are there any changes to the theme force? There wasn't a new doc in CID for it, and are we looking at the +1 roll benefit or +1 repair roll benefit at all? There were no changes to the theme force. We didn't add it because there were no changes. We probably should because we could change things. But one of the reasons that the +1 repair roll is there for Man of War is this is a really, really strong theme force in our playtesting. It has been very, very, very powerful, and we are aware that this is not a particularly great benefit. This benefit is on the weaker end of benefits, much like in the last CID for the Statix's theme force, they picked up dodge on all their solos instead of Pathfinder on their entire army.
Yep.
That happened for a reason.
It's intentional design.
Correct, yeah. Like, Statixis are a super strong theme, much like this Man of War theme is very, very strong in our playtests, so we don't necessarily want to give these guys the greatest or the best theme force benefits because it can push them past where we want them to be.
So let's answer each of us 2 more questions, and then we'll call this a wrap.
Sure.
So I'll go first. Paris on Twitch says, any changes on Demolisher? And then Zerkova's character jack, ? No changes on the Demolisher? And who?
Yeah, Zerkova doesn't have a character jack. Does she? Like in the fluff?
Not in game.
Sorry. Was that 2 questions or 1?
That was 1. I combined that in 1 question. You get 1.
Keep up the good work, guys. Thanks, Dark Wizards.
That's not a question. That's just a statement.
No, but I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
That one's mine. That one's mine.
What'd you see when I answer? This is a good one right here. From Gregory.
Gregory. Mini game. Ooh, it's gone. John, it's gone. I need it back. Gregory.
Shat.
Shat. Sorry, bud.
CHADT. Shat. Shat.
Oh god, I'm trying to read it and it keeps moving. Play mini games with 4 advanced moving battle engines. Yes, it's fun.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is you have 4 models in your army. And they outrun the vast majority of the rest of your army and like to die a lot when that happens. So when you do it, play a little conservatively with them. You can usually charge stuff on turn 1 if you go second. I wouldn't do that though, but yeah.
Looks like this question kind of, will you scroll on the Facebook, go up for us, please, John? I saw a question I wanted to answer. Are you worried Mad Dog spam will come back? Asked by Daniel Riker. Yes. Worried, maybe worried is the wrong word. We're obviously keeping a very close eye on it and everything that Christopher Davies does, both in his personal life and when he plays War Machine. But yes, we understand we're dropping the points on Mad Dogs. Oh, you're not doing that? No. You don't have ChristopherDavies.radar.com? I'll download it for you later.
Sweet.
Yes. We know what dropping the points in these things has the potential to do, and we're keeping a very, very close eye on it. We're going to look at the list and see what people come up that might be abusive, and if it's too much, we're just going to pop their value back up. I think the mat increase is sticking, no matter what.
I would be surprised if that changed, yes.
Yeah, but so we're very cognizant, and we don't want to repeat mistakes of the past. But multiple things got hit that the Mad Dog list of past used to use, like Karchev's abilities, for example. So it's a little bit different than it was 2 years ago.
So I actually see a couple questions here that I want to answer. I know we said 2, but I'm just going to dive in here.
You do that.
D2 Necrodan 1, sweet name. Love Diablo 2 Necromancers. Beautiful. When saying the theme is very strong in your testing, do you test using double battle engines, double tankers, etc.? Yeah, I've played a lot of games with Man-O-War here.
Yeah.
And I've tried quad tankers. I've tried quad battle engines. I've done double battle engines of both types. I've done all sorts of tankers of every kind.
We've done so many permutations, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this is one that we've been playtesting for a very long time. So, yeah, and then Armos D49, kind of a silly question, at Pagani. So you're saying you don't remember when cognac was ruined for you. I wasn't the one drinking the cognac that night.
Similarly, Pake. Hey, Pake, how you doing, man? I just finished assembling 2 Dracodiles. Does that make Hungerford happy? Yes.
It's really easy to make Hungerford happy.
I was about to say, I mean, obviously I'm Minions biased, I want to say those words, but I love seeing people assemble anything and having fun with it. But yeah, Dracodiles are dope. Probably the best model we've ever made in our entire
it's very nice.
career as a company. And ever will, I don't know. They're dope. Why don't you get one more?
One more.
Oh, here you go. The Dragon Pup. Hey, Dragon. By the way, always good to hear from you. Let's finish it out with this one. You go for
Oh,
it.
you want me to do it?
Yeah, get it.
Aside from Berserker chassis spam, what other things are you concerned with as being too good or maybe not good enough? In the too good range, I'm still worried about Bombardiers. Those guys are insane. Shock Troopers, of course, are incredibly durable. So do they do too much with these new changes and stuff like that? Is the list just simply too durable? Is there counterplay available to it?
Yeah.
Can you deal with Shock Troopers? Can you deal with Bombardier shooting? Can you deal with 4 battle engines being on the midline? That kind of stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot going on here, and as I said, it's one of the themes we've been testing for a very long time. So, yeah.
So thanks everybody for asking your questions. This has been the first shot for the Armored Core Khador Man-O-War theme for us. With the CID for has just started. It's going for 2.5 weeks. You can go to cid.privateerpress.com right now to sign up and participate, and play some feedback. Play some battle reports. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you think. And if there's anything you see that you're particularly worried about or something you think is not strong, definitely let us know. You know. Anything you want to add before we close it out?
Nah, dog.
I got one thing I want to add.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's that? Oh God! It's the 90s all over again. No! Help! Oh no!